name is Bart Frazzitta, and I am an esophageal cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with a stage 3 adenocarcinoma and went through chemo, radiation, and Dr. Baines did my surgery. In May of this year, I will celebrate 23 years from that surgery. Heartburn was the cause of my esophageal cancer. Had it for over 30 years, and over-the-counter drugs was what I used, and it effectively went away, so I didn't think much of it. We wanted to give something back because the first year and a half post-surgery went so well, and given the fact that so many people had heartburn, I thought the way to go forward would be to try and bring awareness of this disease. When I spoke to Dr. Baines, he said, possibly seeing patients at an early stage of their development would be a way to go. So he would see his patients on new patients every Tuesday. And I would go into the city to be with him and Dr. Ilson, who was the oncologist also on the team that looked at new patients. When they looked at the CAT scans and documents, they determined who was a stage 4, and only Dr. Ilson would see those patients. But if a patient was a standard chemo, radiation, and surgery patient, then all three of us would see that patient. Dr. Ilson would go in, talk to the patient about the chemo and the radiation he was going to put them through, and then he would introduce Dr. Baines to them, and he would explain very graphically what the surgery was all about. And when he finished, he would say, we have someone here today who's been through all of this. Would you like to talk to him? When I entered the room, you'd see a wife and sometimes older children that looked like they were crying, and a patient who just had an awful look on his face and his eyes seemed to be rolling back into his head. And the first question I would ask them was, if anything you've heard today, what's the most troubling to you? A lot of the patients we talked to said pain. I said, well, for me, every morning the nurse would come in, take my vital signs, and rate my pain, 0 being no pain, 10 being excruciating pain. Her goal was to get my pain level into the 4 to 5 level. And in most cases, that was done so that I could do the at least 1 mile walking exercise they wanted me to do, as well as the 10 reps of coughing exercise every hour, and the 10 reps of breathing exercise every hour. Once we did all of that, the next question that would come up would be quality of life. And I said, I'm out of surgery about 1.5 years now. I said, I'm working on my new normal lifestyle. And I said, I play golf 3 times a week. My wife and I go out to dinner probably 4 times a month. And when we finished the conversation with answering all of their questions from my perspective, I never answered a question saying, oh, for you it will be this, or for you it will be that. Never did that. Always addressed their questions with how my experience was with the question they were asking. If they asked a question where I did not have an experience, then I simply said I didn't experience that, so I can't really address that issue. We did this for a while, and all of the patients were coming out of those meetings with a sense of hope, a sense of positiveness, and that was where we wanted to be with that patient at that time. Ultimately, my wife and I decided we wanted to give something back because of the number of patients that had heartburn in the United States. Millions of people had persistent heartburn, and we venture to say that very few of them knew that heartburn could lead to esophageal cancer. So we created the Esophageal Cancer Education Foundation. And looking at the patient support services, we have a book called Esophagectomy Post-Surgical Guide, Questions and Answers, that are available either through our website or through Amazon. We also started 3 support group meetings. They're Zoom meetings. We have 2 meetings a month where we address post-surgical issues. We have 2 thoracic surgeons attending those meetings. And oh, by the way, those 2 thoracic surgeons are a group of probably 20 to 25 other doctors who are members of the General Thoracic Surgical Club who have signed up to be part of that subcommittee of our Medical Advisory Total Committee. Um, and two of those doctors support each of the meetings we have on esophageal cancer post-surgery issues. We also have a stage 4 and recurrent esophageal cancer Zoom meeting, and we have two oncologists that sit on that meeting and basically help resolve any of the issues that patients have as they call into that meeting. One of the things that we're trying to do now is to create a early diagnosis Zoom meeting, and we felt that the way to go forward with that is to first, for me to talk to you, the doctors involved, and get the sense of what you do from a patient perspective during their stay in the hospital. Once I have that information, I can then respond to any patient that you have that you think I should be talking to give them a sense of hope, a sense of a positiveness, a sense of, hey, I have achieved 23 years post-surgery, and this is an example of how I live. And basically, once we do that at an individual basis, we then can invite them into a support group environment and basically help in that respect. The thought process is to literally have someone from your staff that I can deal with that could survey patients that you've done an esophagectomy on this past year. We can have a support group meeting and treat it as a post-surgery meeting, but in that meeting try to determine any of those patients that could be in a pre-diagnosis or early diagnosis situation. We would then look to bring those patients out, train them, have them become volunteers of your organization, make sure that they clear all of the volunteer regulations that you have, and then we can go from there. I have a list of the things that I think would be of importance from that perspective, and I'm making copies available to the club, and hopefully they will be distributed at the end of the meeting. Thank you, and if you have any questions or issues, our website is www.fightec.org. Please let me know and be happy to deal with you on a one-on-one basis and get the issues resolved and get to see patients to hopefully bring them to a positive level for their surgery. Thank you very much. Take care.